Hey guys, Koven here back with another video. Today I'm going to give some quick thoughts about which of the Mere Tenebria. I don't actually have her here, but I don't have her yet, sorry, but I've been doing a lot of testing with some guildmates, talking with some guildmates, and then I watched a lot of games from eSummer World Cup, a lot of streamers, so I think I've been able to come up with a pretty good opinion. So I'm just going to give some of my initial thoughts and like how you'd be looking to build her, play with her, things like that. So quick rundown of her kit. Her skill 1, it's a 75% chance. It goes up to 100 for a random debuff, which can be poison, speed down, or defense break. And then if her S3 is down, she'll do a dual attack with the highest attack ally, which is always nice. S2 is very powerful ability. It inflicts rupture on all enemies and then will also inflict restrict 100% chance with molars. And it gives her stealth and a barrier. And the barrier is pretty huge, so it can be quite hard to get her out of stealth. And then rupture basically is what adds damage to any team she's in. So if I pick her with like a few knights, a soul weaver, I can basically give my whole team damage because you're doing damage proportional to the enemy's max HP on every hit. So for those 2 turns that they have rupture, your whole team essentially become like chip damage DPS. So it's what speeds up games. It's what gives her damage against a lot of team comps. So it's quite good. And then her S3 is the real seller, which is it dispels 2 buffs and then inflicts block and a random debuff on the opponent and gives her 50% CR. So block is like essentially unbuffable, but you can't. You can only you can get buffs from yourself and you can apply beneficial effects to yourself. So to give an example, if I applied block on Boss Arunka, the Arunka can still when she S3 she can still get the defense buff and the barrier from herself. But if for example a DN tried to cleanse her, she would not be able to because block only lets you get cleansed or get buffed by yourself. So this is such a strong ability because it's really good at punishing comps with like weak weak units or weak DPS. So it's like a really strong form of control because usually the issue with control is if you miss a debuff on like the cleanser, then they can just cleanse the whole team. But block kind of blocks that. Okay, block kind of removes that possibility because I can't. I basically need my whole team to be able to resist for me to be able to play through. And then when you add in the random debuffs, which are all hard controls, stun doesn't let you act, sleep doesn't let you act, redirect provoke will force you to hit her highest HP ally. So I think that's really what brings her kits together is that your S3 make it so every unit on the opponent's team has to essentially play by themselves. And then you S2 for the rupture gives you damage. And with how much CR she gets from the S3, and then when you combine that with her bringing more damage with dual attacks, getting extra turns from S1, I think Tenebria is a really strong control unit. A lot of people have noticed there's no ignore effect resistance in her kit, so some of the answers you'll see are like very high ER cleansers like the Stina, DJB, and then you pair them with units that don't really care too much about the debuffs. Like, for example, a Aria, the new Aria that just came out, the Disciplinary Prefect Aria. She obviously stacks ER based on how healthy she is. So, and then she gets 40% ER from her passive. So, on average, if like, or for me, for example, my Aria is 32k HP. My new build, I am planning to give her some ER in her build, but I think it's not too uncommon to see an Aria with like 50% ER from stats and then 30k HP gives you 65 ER per 10k HP, so that's about 200. And then when you add in the 40% she gets from her passive, that's almost 300 ER. So the way you're looking to build Tenebria essentially is, I think, similar to how people used to build Narqual a while back, where she, of course, has ignore ER, but you don't always have the opportunity to soul burn. So it's kind of that like 240 to 270 to 80 speed range because Tenebri is not the fastest unit because she can't really call her an opener because opener is pretty much dependent on your base speed and Tenebria's base speed is about I want to say 114 I think it was 120 so a lot higher than I thought but when you compare that to units like Rand, Payro, the 128s, 129s, the Renak, who's also fast, she's not as fast as a lot of the units she's competing with. And then a lot of the reasons those units become openers is because they have ways to apply their debuffs without building effectiveness. Numa Luna is not that much faster than her in terms of base speed, but she has ignore effect resistance, so she doesn't have to build any effectiveness. Whereas Tenebria, you're pretty much forced to always prioritize effectiveness no matter what build you're going. So generally, what you see is like people would go for like 200 to 250 ER, and then as much speed and bulk as they can get at that ER point. So I think that's pretty much just the go-to of how you play. You want immunity as well because I think you want some flexibility when you face certain openers. Like it can work into Lidica, it can work into quite a few openers. Not as much maybe now since we have ARAM who can also do well and provide immunity to the team, but I think immunity is quite important. And then second thing you're looking to get is effectiveness. 200 is possible, but I think you ideally want to aim for about 240, 250, even higher. The higher the better essentially. And then I think your next priority after that is getting to your speed break point to have her tuned with openers. I think that's another thing to cover. She plays really, really well with openers because you one of the artifacts that was actually on her banner, I think I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, was Umbral Keystones. And this is what a lot of people are using to kind of circumvent the speed because you can see here at the end of every two ally turns, you get 10% CR. It does scale up, I think, to 20. So if I go with something like a Lidica S2 into S3, that's two turns. Then my uh, Tenebria will push up with the 20% CR, steal a turn, press S3, and then it can be game over from there because my opponent's cleanser isn't able to do anything anymore. So that's one of the best artifacts on her. Obviously, she's a mage, so book is always one to consider. I think Etika Scepter could also be one to consider to get the cooldowns up faster, to get like better uptime on Rupture, better uptime on S3. And then besides those, I think all the other options are not amazing. I think you either really want to go book just for the utility it can bring, or Umbral Keystones, or you can also consider Eticas. Other options I wouldn't really go for. And then we covered the sets speed plus immunity, and I think another thing worth mentioning is that in terms of what style of player should be looking at her and pull value, I think for aggressive players, she's like a must-have because she makes it so you don't always have to go the conventional route of like crit DPS, like the new Huayang strays. You can just go the control route as well. I think that's something she unlocks. And then turn two players, I think a lot of people have been saying you either picking her as a kind of denial or you're pre-banning her as a turn two player because while she does have some potential in turn two, more often than not you're looking to not fight an area. So I think she's a very solid option to have. I would definitely go for her if you do have the mystics available, but I wouldn't fault people for saving for upcoming ML5s they might think are coming because she's not she's very, very good, but I wouldn't say she's a must have for every player. So this was just my initial thoughts on the unit. I do plan on getting her. I'm kind of waiting to see if they reveal anything else next week, which I would suggest you guys also do. But I think she's very valuable, very good unit, and I think she's very much worth your mystics. So this was just my quick thoughts on Tenebria. I do plan on making a few more guides in this kind of style, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.